The morning alarm rang through the research station on Mars Colony 7. Dr. So-Young Park rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the data streaming across her computer screen. She had been working for 3 days straight on the same mystery signal. The signal was old, very old, and it was calling for help. Commander Hyun-Woo Kim walked into the research lab with his usual morning coffee. He was tall and strong, with kind eyes that had seen too many battles. The other scientists always felt safer when he was around. "Any progress on that signal, Dr. Park?" he asked, sitting down beside her workstation. So-Young stretched her back and pointed at the screen. "This is strange, Commander. The signal is over 300 years old. It uses an old Earth language mixed with something else, something I have never seen before." Hyun-Woo leaned closer to look at the data. "Can you translate it?" "I am trying, but look at this part here." So-Young highlighted a section of the decoded message. "It mentions New Busan. That was one of our first colony worlds. My grandfather was born there." The commander's face became serious. New Busan was special to all humans. It was the colony that almost failed. The early settlers had arrived on a harsh world with poisonous air and deadly storms. Many people died in the first year. Then something amazing happened. "Tell me what the signal says," Hyun-Woo said quietly. So-Young read from her translation. "To our human friends. We are the Villani of the 7 worlds. Our home burns. Our children cry in chains. The hegemony takes everything. If you remember the gift we gave on the world you call New Busan, please help us. We helped you breathe. We helped you live. Now we are dying." The room became very quiet. Hyun-Woo stared at the message for a long time. Every human child learned about New Busan in school. The history book said that unknown aliens had helped the early colonists. These aliens gave them machines to clean the air and medicine to cure the poison sickness. Then the aliens disappeared without asking for anything in return. "The Villani," Hyun-Woo whispered. "They were the ones who saved New Busan," So-Young nodded. "The signal is old, Commander. If they sent this 3 centuries ago, they might already be—" She could not finish the sentence. "Or they might still be fighting," Hyun-Woo said, standing up quickly. "How long would it take to reach their location?" "With our fastest ships, maybe 6 months. But Commander, we do not know what we would find there. This hegemony they mention could be very dangerous." Hyun-Woo was already walking toward the communication center. "Get me a direct line to Fleet Command on Earth, and send all this data to the History Department. I want to know everything about what the Villani did for us." Within 2 hours, the research station was buzzing with activity. Historians searched through old records. Military analysts studied star charts. Communications officers tried to boost the signal to learn more. Captain Tae-min Lee arrived from the orbital defense platform with a folder full of military reports. He was Hyun-Woo's oldest friend and best tactical officer. They had fought together in the border wars and trusted each other completely. "The news is not good," Tae-min said, spreading out the reports on the table. "I talked to our intelligence networks. This hegemony coalition is real and they are very bad news. They have been conquering peaceful worlds for over a century. They take slaves, strip mine planets, and kill anyone who resists." "How strong are they?" Hyun-Woo asked. "Strong. Maybe 3,000 warships plus countless support vessels. They control about 40 star systems in the Outer Rim. Our scouts report that they use very advanced weapons and have no mercy for civilians." So-Young looked up from her research. "Commander, I found something important. The Villani did not just help us clean the air on New Busan. They also gave us the mathematical principles that led to our FTL drive development. Without their help, we might never have left that one world." The weight of this discovery hit everyone in the room. Humanity's entire space civilization existed because of Villani kindness. Their exploration of the galaxy, their colonies, their technology, all of it started with aliens who helped strangers and asked for nothing. "We owe them everything," Tae-min said quietly. Ambassador Ji-eun, Choi's voice came through the communication system from Earth. She was humanity's representative to the Galactic Council, and she sounded worried. "Commander Kim, I have been watching your reports. The Galactic Council is very concerned about any human military action in that region. They say the hegemony coalition is too strong, and intervention would only lead to more suffering." Hyun-Woo activated the video link. Ambassador Choi appeared on the screen. She was a small woman with silver hair, but her voice carried the authority of speaking for all humanity. "With respect, Ambassador, what does the Galactic Council suggest we do?" Hyun-Woo asked. They want us to file a formal complaint and wait for diplomatic negotiations. The process could take decades. Decades, Taman repeated with disgust. While people who helped us die in slavery. Ambassador Choi nodded sadly. I know how this sounds. But the Council fears human military power. They think if we intervene, it could start a galactic war. So Young stood up from her computer. Ambassador, I have been studying the historical records all day. Do you know what the Villani gave up to help us? They shared technology that was sacred to their culture. They broke their own laws about contact with primitive species because they saw human children dying. And now their children are dying, Hyunwoo added. Ambassador, send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them that humanity has never forgotten a debt. We will not start now. Commander, they will try to stop you. Let them try. The next morning, Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun-yu arrived at Mars Colony 7 with orders from Earth Command. He was an old warrior with scars on his face and sadness in his eyes. But when he spoke, his voice was strong. The President has authorized Operation Debt of Honor, he announced to the assembled officers. We will mobilize the 3rd and 5th Fleets plus support vessels. Total strength, 800 ships. Is that enough? Taman asked. Admiral Yu smiled grimly. Captain, you forget who we are. Humans do not fight just with ships and weapons. We fight with something our enemies do not understand. We fight with the knowledge that we are right. As the fleet prepared to depart, messages poured in from human colonies across the galaxy. Veterans volunteered for service. Civilians donated supplies. Children sent drawings of earth flowers to give to the Villani when they were freed. Dr. So-Young Park worked through the night to decode more of the Villani signal. In the background noise, she found something that made her cry. It was a lullaby sung in the Villani language, but the melody was one that human mothers sang to their children on New Busan. The Villani had not just saved human lives. They had become part of human culture, part of who humans were as a species, and now humans would do the same for them. Commander Hyunwoo Kim stood on the bridge of his flagship as the human fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. Behind them, the Galactic Council sent frantic messages demanding they stop. Ahead of them lay the unknown dangers of hegemony space. All ships report ready, Commander, the navigation officer announced. Signal the fleet, Hyunwoo ordered. Today we repay a debt that is 3 centuries old. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you hurt humanity's friends. The stars stretched into lines of light as 800 human warships jumped toward the outer rim, carrying with them the hopes of a dying species and the unbreakable promise of a debt finally paid. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Villani territory. What they saw made even the most experienced soldiers feel sick. The first Villani world they found was nothing but burning rock and twisted metal. Lieutenant Hyejin Song piloted her scout ship closer to get better readings. She was young but brave, with steady hands and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her voice came through the communication system, shaking with anger. Commander Kim, this planet is dead. I am reading massive strip mining operations and industrial waste everywhere. The atmosphere is full of poison. Nothing could live here now. Commander Hyunwoo Kim stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the data come in. Each report was worse than the last. Captain Tae-min Lee stood beside him, his face growing darker with every destroyed world they discovered. How many planets? Hyunwoo asked quietly. 17 confirmed dead worlds so far, the sensor officer reported. Wait, I'm getting something else. 3 planets showing signs of life, but they are under heavy bombardment. Admiral Dong Hyun-yu called from his dreadnought. Commander, we need to move fast. My long-range sensors show massive enemy fleet movements heading toward the remaining Villani worlds. How big? Taman asked. At least 2,000 ships, maybe more. Dr. So-Young Park was studying the scanning data from her position in the science bay. What she found made her heart break. Commander, these dead worlds were beautiful once. The sensor readings show they had vast forests, clean oceans, and cities that worked with nature, instead of destroying it. The Villani built in harmony with their environment. And now it is all gone, Hyunwoo said. His voice was calm, but everyone who knew him could hear the anger building underneath. Lieutenant Hyejin Song's scout ship reached the nearest living Villani world. What she saw there was almost worse than the dead planets. Massive energy shields flickered around small areas of the planet's surface. Outside the shields, hegemony war machines moved like metal insects, stripping away everything green and alive. I can see Villani cities under those shields, Hyejin reported. But the shields are failing. They will not last much longer. Can you get through? Hyunwoo asked. I think so. My ship is small enough to slip past their sensors. But Commander, if those shields fall while I am down there, do it. We need to make contact. Hee-jin's scout ship danced between enemy patrol vessels like a bird flying through a storm. She used every trick she had learned in pilot school, hiding behind asteroids and using sensor shadows to stay invisible. Finally, she reached the largest shield and sent the universal peace signal. The response came in broken Standard Galactic, mixed with what must be the Vallani language. Unknown ship, this is Sanctuary Prime. You must leave. The metal demons will kill you too. This is Lieutenant Hee-jin Song of the Human Expeditionary Fleet, she transmitted back. We received your distress call. We are here to help. Silence stretched for long minutes. Then a new voice came through, old and tired but filled with sudden hope. Human? You said human. After all these years you came. We came. My commander wants to speak with your leaders. I am Elder Kiths of the Vallani Council, or what remains of it. Human child, how many ships do you have? 800 warships, sir. More coming if we need them. Another long silence. Then Elder Kith spoke again, and this time his voice was stronger. Land at coordinates I am sending you. But be careful. The hegemony has killed so many of us. We are not many now. Hee-jin landed her ship in what had once been a beautiful city. Now it was crowded with refugee camps and medical centers. Vallani people moved slowly between the shelters, their large eyes dim with exhaustion and fear. Elder Kiths met her at the landing pad. He was tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to glow softly. His people looked like humans in some ways, but more graceful, with longer fingers and larger eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Child of Earth, he said in careful Standard Galactic, I remember when your people were small and struggling. We were happy to help. We never expected to see you again. Hee-jin felt tears in her eyes. We never forgot. My great-grandmother was born on New Busan. She used to tell stories about the kind aliens who saved her family. Elder Kiths showed her around the refugee camps. The stories he told made Hee-jin's heart hurt. The Hegemony Coalition had come 50 years ago, demanding that the Vallani submit to their rule. When the Vallani refused, the attacks began. They did not just want our worlds, Elder Kiths explained. They wanted our knowledge, our terraforming technology, our medical science, our mathematics. When we would not give it freely, they took it by force. How many of your people are left? On this world, maybe 50,000. On the other 2 surviving worlds, perhaps another 100,000. We were once millions across 21 beautiful worlds. Back on the human flagship, Dr. So-young Park was working frantically to analyze the data Hee-jin had sent. What she discovered changed everything. Commander, she called urgently, you need to see this. The Vallani did not just help us with terraforming and medicine. They gave us the mathematical foundation for faster-than-light travel. Without their gift, we would still be trapped in our solar system. Hyunwoo studied the data. Are you certain? Completely. The equations we use for hyperspace navigation are based on principles the Vallani taught our early scientists. They disguised it as basic physics lessons, but it was actually the key to interstellar travel. Captain Taemin Lee whistled softly. They gave us the galaxy itself. A new signal came through the communication system. It was from the Hegemony Coalition, transmitted on all frequencies. The voice was cold and mechanical. Human vessels, this is General Vex Moran of the Hegemony Coalition 5th Fleet. You are trespassing in conquered territory. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Put me through to him, Hyunwoo ordered. The view screen flickered, showing a massive alien creature covered in metal armor. General Vex Moran looked like a cross between a lizard and a machine, with glowing red eyes and weapons built into his arms. So, the general said with obvious amusement, the little humans have come to play hero. How touching. You have 1 hour to leave or my 3,000 ships will turn you into space dust. Commander Hyunwoo Kim stepped forward, so the alien could see him clearly. His voice was calm and steady, but his eyes held a promise of violence that made even hardened soldiers nervous. General Moran, my name is Commander Hyunwoo Kim of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. I am here to inform you that you have made 2 very serious mistakes. Oh? And what might those be, little human? First, you attacked a species that showed kindness to strangers. Second, you assumed that kindness was weakness. Hyunwoo paused, letting his words sink in. Today you learn the difference between human kindness and human anger. General Moran laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Your 800 ships against my 3,000? You are either very brave or very stupid. Maybe both, Hyunwoo replied. But here is something for you to think about while you prepare your attack. Every human ship out there carries people who grew up hearing stories about the Villani. Stories about aliens who saved human children and asked for nothing in return. You did not just attack our friends, General. You attacked our heroes. The transmission cut off. General Moron turned to his tactical officers. Prepare the fleet. We will crush these humans quickly and get back to strip mining the remaining Villani worlds. But deep in space, human ships were already moving into battle formations. Each crew member knew they were fighting for more than just military victory. They were fighting to repay a debt of honor that went back 3 centuries. Admiral Dong Hyun-Yu's voice came through the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Yu. Today we fight not as conquerors but as protectors. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you hurt humanity's friends. For the Villani, for New Busan, for everyone who ever showed kindness to a stranger. In the refugee camps on Sanctuary Prime, Elder Kiths watched the human ships prepare for battle. For the first time in 50 years, he felt hope. The small species they had helped long ago had grown strong. And they had remembered. The battle for the Villani worlds was about to begin. The 2 fleets faced each other across the darkness of space. General Vex Moran's 3,000 hegemony ships formed a massive wall of metal and weapons. The human fleet looked tiny in comparison, only 800 vessels against an overwhelming enemy force. On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Hyunwoo Kim watched the enemy formation with calm eyes. Captain Taemin Lee stood beside him, checking weapon systems one final time. All ships report ready for battle, the communications officer announced. Any last words from the Galactic Council? Hyunwoo asked. They are begging us to withdraw. They say this fight will destroy us and make everything worse. Hyunwoo nodded slowly. Send them a message. Tell them that sometimes doing the right thing requires accepting terrible risks. Today we choose to be human. Across the battlefield, General Vex Moran was confident in his victory. His ships had conquered dozens of star systems. His weapons were powerful, his armor was thick, and his numbers were overwhelming. These humans would learn what happened to those who challenged the Hegemony Coalition. Begin the attack, he ordered. Show these humans the price of defying us. The Hegemony fleet moved forward like a metal storm. Thousands of weapon beams filled space with deadly light. Their plan was simple: use overwhelming firepower to crush the human resistance quickly. But something strange happened. The human ships did not try to match the enemy's firepower. Instead, they scattered into small groups and began moving in patterns that seemed random, but were actually very careful. Chief Engineer Yu Na Lim sat in the weapons control center of Admiral Dong Hyun-Yu's dreadnought. She had been working in secret for 3 years on humanity's newest technology. Today, her work would be tested in battle. Quantum phase weapons are ready, she reported. All ships have been equipped with the new systems. What exactly do these weapons do? Admiral Yu asked. They phase through normal shields and armor. The energy beam shifts into quantum space, travels through solid matter, then phases back to normal space inside the enemy ship. It hits their power cores directly. The first human attack surprised everyone. Instead of the bright weapon beams that most species used, the human ships fired invisible pulses that seemed to do nothing. The hegemony commanders laughed as their shields absorbed what looked like weak attacks. Then their ships started exploding from the inside. General Vex Moran watched in shock as his frontline vessels simply came apart. Their shields were perfect, their armor was undamaged, but their power cores were destroyed. What kind of weapons are these? He demanded. Unknown technology, General. Our shields cannot stop them. Then we get closer. Prepare boarding parties. We will take their ships by force. This was exactly what the humans had expected. Colonel Minho Jang and his Marine Corps were ready and waiting. The Hegemony Coalition was famous for their boarding tactics. Their soldiers were big, strong, and experienced in close combat. They had captured hundreds of ships using these methods, but they had never boarded a human vessel during a real war. Colonel Minho Jang met the first boarding party at the airlock of his ship. He was not a large man, but he carried himself like someone who had never lost a fight. Behind him stood 50 human Marines, each one ready to die before letting the enemy take their ship. The hegemony soldiers came through the airlock expecting easy victory. They found something very different. Human Marines did not fight like other species. They used every advantage they could find. They knew their own ships perfectly. They fought in the dark, in zero gravity, in toxic atmosphere. They used weapons, tools, and even pieces of the ship itself to defeat their enemies. Most importantly, they fought with a fury that terrified the hegemony soldiers. These humans were not just defending their ship. They were fighting for friends who had shown kindness to strangers 3 centuries ago. The boarding battle lasted only 20 minutes. When it was over, the hegemony soldiers who survived were begging to surrender. Captain Bong Su-han led his fighter squadron in attacks that defied all military logic. His pilots flew their small ships directly at enemy vessels, firing everything they had, then using their ships as guided missiles when their weapons ran out. "Han Squadron, you are flying suicide missions," the fleet commander radioed. "No, sir," Bong Su replied calmly. "We are flying victory missions. Every enemy ship we destroy saves Volani lives." The hegemony fleet began to panic. Their overwhelming numbers meant nothing when human weapons could ignore their defenses. Their superior armor was useless when human fighters crashed through it. Their experienced soldiers ran in terror from human Marines who fought like demons. General Vex Moran tried to reorganize his forces, but the human attack pattern made no sense to him. The humans seemed to be everywhere at once, striking where they were least expected, vanishing before his forces could respond. "Fall back to defensive positions," he ordered. "Bring up the reserve fleet." That was when Admiral Dong Hyun Yu revealed humanity's real surprise. "All stealth vessels decloaked now." Suddenly 12 massive ships appeared in the middle of the hegemony formation. These were prototype dreadnoughts, each one the size of a small moon. They had been hidden using advanced stealth technology, waiting for the perfect moment. The sight of these enormous vessels emerging from empty space caused panic throughout the hegemony ranks. Each dreadnought was equipped with planet cracker weapons, designed to shatter asteroids and small moons. "This is Admiral Dong Hyun Yu of the Human Expeditionary Fleet," came the broadcast on all frequencies. "General Moran, you wanted to see human military power. Now you see it. Surrender immediately or face complete destruction." General Vex Moran stared at the massive human ships surrounding his fleet. For the first time in his military career, he felt real fear. These humans had hidden 12 dreadnoughts in empty space. What other surprises did they have? I wish to negotiate," he transmitted. Commander Hyun-woo Kim's voice came back cold and final. "You had your chance for mercy when you first attacked the Volani. You chose genocide instead. Today there are no negotiations. Today there is only justice." The planet cracker weapons fired once. The energy beams were so powerful, they lit up space like a new sun. When the light faded, half of the hegemony fleet was simply gone. "Surrender now or join them," Admiral Yu announced. The remaining hegemony ships tried to run. They did not get far. Human fighters hunted them down one by one. The quantum phase weapons made escape impossible. Within 2 hours, General Vex Moran's entire fleet was destroyed or captured. But General Moran himself escaped in a small courier ship, racing toward the hegemony core worlds to warn his commanders that humanity was coming. On Sanctuary Prime, Elder Kiths watched the battle through the orbital sensors. Tears of joy ran down his silver face as he saw the human victory. The species they had helped as children had grown into protectors of the galaxy. Dr. So-young Park was already working on the next phase. "Commander, we have captured hegemony database cores. I am learning the locations of all their slave camps and occupied worlds." "How many?" Hyun-woo asked. "Over 300 worlds. Millions of enslaved people from dozens of species." Captain Tae-min Lee looked at the data. "We cannot save them all with 800 ships." "Then we get more ships," Hyun-woo said simply. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need the entire human space navy. Tell them we are not just saving the Volani anymore. We are ending slavery in this part of the galaxy." Admiral Yu nodded approvingly. The hegemony will send everything they have against us. Their core worlds contain over 10,000 warships. Good, Hyunwoo replied. That means we can finish this in one final battle. As the human fleet began moving toward the hegemony core worlds, rescue ships landed on the 3 surviving Vallani planets. Human medical teams worked to save the survivors, while engineers began rebuilding the failing shield generators. Elder Kiths met with Commander Kim in person for the first time. The old Vallani leader was weak from years of fighting, but his spirit was strong. Human friend, he said. You have already done more than we ever dreamed. If you stop now, we will understand. Hyunwoo shook his head. Elder Kiths, your people gave us the galaxy. The least we can do is make sure it is a place where kindness is rewarded instead of punished. The message went out across human space. Every colony, every military base, every civilian ship that could carry weapons. Humanity was going to war, not for conquest or profit, but to repay a debt of honor and protect those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy watched in fear and wonder as the largest human fleet in history began gathering for the final assault on the hegemony core worlds. The human rescue fleet arrived at the first hegemony slave camp to find horrors that shocked even battle-hardened soldiers. Dr. Seok Jin Woo, the chief medical officer, had prepared for terrible conditions. What he found was worse than his worst nightmares. Millions of Vallani and other species had been worked to death in massive mining operations. The survivors were so weak they could barely stand. Many had been subjected to medical experiments designed to harvest their knowledge and abilities. How many are still alive? Commander Hyunwoo Kim asked as he walked through the camp with Dr. Woo. Maybe 200,000 on this world. But Commander, they are dying fast. The hegemony has been feeding them barely enough to keep them working. Many will not survive even with our best medical care. Sergeant Yoonbi Kang led her demolition teams through the camp, destroying every piece of hegemony equipment they found. She was small and quiet, but her explosives expertise was legendary throughout the human Marine Corps. These machines are designed to break spirits as well as bodies, she reported. The hegemony does not just want slaves. They want broken slaves who have forgotten how to hope. The worst discovery came when human intelligence teams cracked the hegemony computer systems. Captain Sujin Kwan, the fleet's intelligence officer, brought the news to Commander Kim with shaking hands. Sir, they have been harvesting neural tissue from living Vallani. The hegemony commanders have been using Vallani brain matter to enhance their own intelligence and telepathic abilities. Hyunwoo's face went completely still. Captain Taemin Lee standing beside him made a sound like a growling animal. How many? Hyunwoo asked quietly. Over 50,000 Vallani have been subjected to these procedures. Most did not survive. The news spread through the human fleet like wildfire. Soldiers who had seen combat in a dozen wars broke down and cried. Others became so angry, they had to be restrained from attacking captured hegemony personnel. Dr. So-Young Park made another terrible discovery while examining the hegemony databases. She called Commander Kim to the intelligence center with urgent news. Commander, the hegemony has been using Vallani terraforming knowledge to strip mine conquered worlds more efficiently. They take a beautiful planet and turn it into a factory world in less than 5 years. Show me, Hyunwoo ordered. The holographic display showed before and after images of conquered worlds. Planets that had once been covered in forests and oceans were now gray industrial wastelands pumping out weapons and war machines. They are not just committing genocide, Dr. Park continued. They are committing ecocide. They destroy the natural beauty of entire worlds just to make more instruments of war. Matriarch Yelith, one of the few surviving Vallani religious leaders, was brought aboard the human flagship for medical treatment. She was ancient even by Vallani standards, her silver skin marked with scars from hegemony torture devices. Despite her suffering, her large eyes still held wisdom and kindness. When she learned that humans had come to rescue her people, she asked to perform a ceremony of gratitude. Human protectors, she said in a voice like singing crystal. Long ago, our prophecies spoke of the small ones who would grow mighty and return when the darkness fell. We thought these were just stories to give hope in dark times. Now we know they were true visions. Elder Kiths, who had recovered enough to travel with the fleet, translated her words. She says that helping your people 3 centuries ago was not random kindness. The Vallani seers foresaw that humans would one day be needed to save many species from a great evil. We were always meant to repay this debt, Hyunwoo said softly. The ceremony was broadcast throughout the human fleet. Matriarch Yileth blessed each ship and crew, calling on ancient Villani spirits to protect the humans in the battles to come. But the liberation of the slave camps revealed an even darker truth. Intelligence teams discovered that the Hegemony Coalition controlled a network of fortress worlds in their core systems, protected by over 10,000 warships and planetary defense systems that could destroy entire fleets. Ambassador Jeon Choi's voice came through from Earth with desperate urgency. Commander Kim, the Galactic Council is begging you to accept a negotiated settlement. The Hegemony has offered to release all remaining Villani and pay massive reparations if you stop your advance. What do you think, Ambassador? Hyunwoo asked. I think they are terrified, not just of you, but of what you represent. If humanity can destroy the Hegemony Coalition, what does that mean for the rest of the galaxy's power structure? Captain Taemin Lee looked at the strategic displays showing Hegemony strength in the core worlds. Commander, they have a point about the risks. If we attack their home systems, they will throw everything they have at us. We could lose half our fleet. Hyunwoo walked to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Behind him, his officers waited for his decision. In the medical bay, thousands of rescued slaves were fighting for their lives. In the cargo holds, recovered Hegemony databases contained the locations of hundreds of other slave camps. Dr. Park, he said finally, how many species has the Hegemony enslaved? At least 47 different species, sir. Some of them are completely extinct now except for the slaves in Hegemony camps. And if we accept this negotiation, what happens to those other species? The Hegemony keeps them. The deal only covers the Villani. Hyunwoo turned back to his officers. Send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them that humanity does not negotiate with slavers. Every world the Hegemony has conquered will be free. Every species they have enslaved will be liberated. This is not a war anymore. This is judgment. The response from the Galactic Council was immediate and panicked. They threatened to impose sanctions on humanity. They warned that destroying the Hegemony might destabilize the entire galaxy. They begged, demanded, and pleaded for the humans to stop. Admiral Dong-Hyun Yu listened to the messages with grim amusement. They are afraid, Commander. Afraid that if we can destroy the Hegemony, we might come for them next. Should they be afraid? Hyunwoo asked. Only if they have been doing things that would make us angry. The human fleet began its advance toward the core worlds. As they traveled, more ships arrived from human space. The Third Fleet was joined by the 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 7th Fleets. Colony militias volunteered for service. Even civilian ships were armed and pressed into support roles. By the time they reached the edge of Hegemony core space, the human force numbered over 3,000 vessels. It was the largest military fleet in human history, but intelligence reports showed that the Hegemony was ready for them. Supreme General Kraz Nethys, the overall Hegemony military commander, had assembled a fleet of 12,000 ships around their capital world. The planet itself was protected by energy shields strong enough to stop planet cracker weapons. Dr. Sok Jin-woo brought one final piece of news that changed everything. While treating rescued Villani, he had discovered something that explained the true scope of Hegemony crimes. Commander, the Hegemony has not just been stealing technology and resources. They have been systematically destroying the cultural records and languages of conquered species. They erase the very identity of people they enslave. Cultural genocide, Dr. So-Young Park added. They do not just want to control these species. They want to make them forget who they used to be. This revelation transformed the conflict from a rescue mission into something much larger. The humans realized they were not just fighting to save the Villani. They were fighting to preserve the cultural diversity of the galaxy itself. Sergeant Yunbi Kang spoke for many when she said, "These monsters are not just killing people. They are killing entire civilizations. They are stealing the songs, stories, and dreams of whole species." As the human fleet prepared for the final assault on the core worlds, messages of support arrived from across the galaxy. Species that had never spoken to humans before sent offers of help. Even some Galactic Council members quietly wished the humans success. Elder Kiths, now serving as an advisor to the human command, made a final observation that summed up what was at stake. Human friends, you came to repay a debt to the Villani, but now you fight for something much more important. You fight for the idea that kindness should be rewarded and cruelty should be punished. You fight for a galaxy where helping strangers makes you strong instead of weak, Commander. Hyunwoo Kim stood before the assembled fleet commanders as they prepared for the battle that would decide the fate of dozens of species. 3 centuries ago, the Villani showed kindness to human strangers. Today we show the galaxy what happens when that kindness grows up. Today we end the age of predators and begin the age of protectors. The final battle for the hegemony core worlds was about to begin. The assault on the hegemony core worlds began not with weapons, but with something the enemy had never seen before. Specialist Junho Baek sat in the cyber warfare center of the human flagship, his fingers dancing across quantum computer interfaces that glowed with alien mathematics. Beginning. Quantum intrusion protocol, he announced, to Commander Hyunwoo Kim. Using Villani mathematical principles to break their encryption. What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries. In less than 4 hours, human quantum computers penetrated every hegemony system simultaneously. Communication networks crashed. Automated defense platforms shut down. Even life support systems on many worlds began failing. Supreme General Kraz Nethys watched his empire collapse from his command center on Hegemony Prime. He was a massive creature, like a walking tank covered in metal armor and weapon systems. For 200 years he had conquered species across the galaxy. Now he faced an enemy that fought with methods he could not understand. How are they doing this? He demanded of his technicians. Unknown, Supreme General. Their computer attacks are using mathematical principles we have never seen. Our security systems cannot even recognize the intrusion methods. General Haewon Shin coordinated the human military assault from her position aboard the command carrier. She was young for such a high rank, but her strategic mind was legendary throughout the human space navy. Phase 1 complete, she reported to Admiral Dong Hyun Yu. Enemy communications are down, automated defenses are offline, and their supply networks are collapsing. Beginning Phase 2. Phase 2 was unlike any military campaign in galactic history. Instead of attacking enemy fleets directly, human forces struck at the foundation of hegemony power. They targeted food distribution centers, fuel depots, manufacturing facilities, and transportation hubs. Within days, hegemony forces found themselves without supplies, without fuel, and without the ability to coordinate their defense. Ships ran out of power and drifted helplessly in space. Soldiers on conquered worlds faced starvation. Captain Sujin Kwan led infiltration teams that moved like ghosts through hegemony territory. Her teams were specialists in what humans called precision elimination. They did not destroy cities or kill civilians. Instead, they systematically removed hegemony leadership. Target acquired, she reported from the surface of hegemony secondary command world. Governor Vex Thran is in custody. His entire command staff has been neutralized. Any resistance? General Shin asked. The local population is celebrating in the streets. Turns out they hate their hegemony overlords as much as we do. This was the pattern across dozens of worlds. As human forces liberated hegemony territories, the subject species rose in rebellion. Slaves broke their chains. Oppressed populations turned on their oppressors. The hegemony coalition began collapsing from within. But the real prize was Hegemony Prime, the capital world where Supreme General Kraz Nethys commanded the largest fleet in galactic history. The planet was protected by energy shields that could stop any conventional attack and defended by 8,000 warships. Admiral Yu studied the tactical situation from his dreadnought. General Shin, their defenses are too strong for a direct assault. We would lose half our fleet just breaking through their outer perimeter. Then we do not break through, General Shin replied. We make them come to us. The siege of Hegemony Prime became a masterpiece of psychological warfare. Human ships surrounded the planet at maximum weapons range, just close enough to threaten but too far away for effective return fire. Then they began broadcasting. Dr. So Young Park had prepared a special transmission using captured hegemony databases. The broadcast went out on all frequencies, in every language spoken in hegemony space. People of the core worlds, her voice announced. This is Dr. So Young Park of the Human Liberation Fleet. We know you are not our enemies. We know you have been forced to serve the hegemony against your will. We are here to free you, not to conquer you. The broadcast included detailed information about hegemony crimes, evidence of cultural genocide, and proof that the ruling class had been living in luxury while subject populations suffered and died. Citizens of Hegemony Prime, the message continued. Your leaders have told you that humans are monsters who will destroy your world. They lie. We have liberated 47 worlds in the past month. On every world, we have restored freedom and begun reconstruction. We offer the same to you. The effect was immediate and devastating. Riots broke out across Hegemony Prime. Slave workers in the factories turned on their overseers. Even some Hegemony military units began to defect. Supreme General Krasnethus tried to restore order by threatening to execute any civilian who listened to human broadcasts. This only made the situation worse. His own officers began to question whether they were fighting for civilization or tyranny. The final blow came when Captain Su Jin Quan's infiltration teams reached the Imperial Palace. They moved through the massive structure like hunting predators, avoiding the heavy security forces and targeting specific objectives. Package delivered, she reported to General Shin. Supreme General Krasnethus is secured. We have also recovered the central database containing records of all Hegemony operations. The capture of their Supreme Commander broke the last Hegemony resistance. Ships began surrendering by the dozen. Planetary governors offered to negotiate. The vast empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries collapsed in less than a week. But the humans found one more horror in the Imperial Palace that made even their anger burn hotter. Hidden in the deepest levels was a vast archive containing the cultural treasures of hundreds of destroyed civilizations. Dr. So-Young Park walked through the archive with tears streaming down her face. Commander, they kept everything they stole. Art, music, literature, scientific discoveries. They erased these cultures from the galaxy, but kept their treasures as trophies. The archive contained the last songs of extinct species, the final poems of destroyed civilizations, and the accumulated wisdom of cultures that no longer existed anywhere else in the universe. Elder Kiths, who had traveled with the human fleet to witness the final victory, collapsed when he saw Villani artifacts that had been lost for centuries. Our sacred texts, he whispered. The songs of our ancestors. We thought they were gone forever. Commander Hyun-Woo Kim made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of keeping the archive as a war trophy, he ordered it to be returned to the surviving members of each culture represented. These treasures belong to their people, he announced. If their people are extinct, then the archive will be given to species most closely related to them. The Hegemony stole these cultures. We are giving them back. The news of the archive's return spread across the galaxy faster than any communication system. Species that had been enemies for centuries began working together to preserve and restore lost cultural knowledge. But the war was not quite over. Supreme General Krasnethus, from his cell aboard the human flagship, revealed one final secret that changed everything. You think you have won, human? He said to Commander Kim during his interrogation. But the Hegemony was just the beginning. We serve powers older and darker than your small minds can imagine. What powers? Kim asked, the Void Collective. They have been watching your species, human. They are coming. Dr. So-Young Park analyzed the Hegemony databases and found references to this mysterious Void Collective. The evidence suggested that the Hegemony Coalition had been created and guided by an even more ancient and evil force. Commander, she reported. According to these records, the Void Collective has been manipulating galactic politics for thousands of years. They create conflicts, destroy civilizations, and harvest the chaos for some unknown purpose. General Shin studied the data. Are they a threat to us? Unknown. But the Hegemony records suggest they control technology that makes planet crackers look like children's toys. Despite this ominous revelation, the immediate victory was complete. The Hegemony Coalition was destroyed. Millions of slaves were free. Dozens of species had been liberated from centuries of oppression. On Sanctuary Prime, Matriarch Yeleth led a ceremony celebrating the return of the stolen Villani archives. Her ancient voice sang songs that had been silent for 50 years, while human soldiers stood guard to ensure they would never be silenced again. Human protectors, she said to Commander Kim. You came to repay a small debt. You have given us back our souls. But even as the galaxy celebrated, human intelligence teams were already preparing for the next threat. The Void Collective was out there somewhere, and if the Hegemony records were accurate, humanity's real test was yet to come. The age of Hegemony tyranny was over. The age of human protection had begun, and in the depths of space, Ancient powers watched and planned their response to this new galactic order. 6 months after the fall of the Hegemony Coalition, the galaxy waited to see what humanity would do with its overwhelming power. Many species expected the humans to establish their own empire, replacing tyranny with human dominance. Instead, President Min Ryu surprised everyone with an announcement that changed galactic civilization forever. Citizens of the galaxy, she broadcast from Earth. Humanity did not fight to become your rulers. We fought to ensure that no one could rule you against your will. Today we established the Galactic Liberation Protocols, a new system designed to protect all peaceful species from aggression and slavery. Judge Advocate Chang-wook Im stood before the largest war crimes tribunal in galactic history. The captured hegemony leadership sat in specially designed cells, watching as their crimes were read into the record. Instead of executing them, the tribunal made a decision that shocked everyone. Supreme General Kraz Nethys, Judge Im announced, you are sentenced to spend the remainder of your life working to repair the damage you have caused. You will labor alongside the slaves you once commanded, under the supervision of those you once oppressed. You expect me to work as a common laborer? Kraz Nethys snarled. We expect you to learn what it means to build instead of destroy. Every world you strip mined will be restored. Every species you enslaved will see you working to make amends. The Vallani, under the protection of human military guarantees, began rebuilding their civilization with remarkable speed. The combination of their traditional wisdom and advanced human technology created wonders that impressed even the most sophisticated species in the galaxy. Elder Kiths, now fully recovered and serving as a chief advisor to the reformed Galactic Council, often visited the reconstruction sites. Human friends, he told Commander Hyun-woo Kim during one such visit, your people have given us more than our freedom. You have given us hope. The Vallani worlds were being transformed into showcase examples of what cooperation could achieve. Forests grew in harmony with advanced cities. Clean energy systems powered manufacturing that enhanced rather than destroyed natural beauty. But the most remarkable change was in galactic politics itself. Ambassador Jin No had been working quietly with liberated species to create something unprecedented. A mutual defense network based on cooperation rather than domination. The principle is simple, she explained to the reformed Galactic Council. Any species that helps another in crisis will be guaranteed protection by the Alliance. Any species that preys on the weak will face the combined response of all Alliance members. Chancellor Voth Yermani, the reformed leader of the Galactic Council, realized the genius of this system. You have made war against peaceful species impossible. The threat of human intervention will deter aggression, while the Alliance system encourages cooperation. The new system was tested sooner than anyone expected. Reports arrived of distress signals from the Antares sector, where a peaceful agricultural species called the Thalen was being raided by pirates and slavers. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Human ships mobilized within hours, but they were not alone. Vallani vessels joined them, carrying advanced terraforming equipment to repair damaged Thalen worlds. Former hegemony subject species contributed ships and supplies. Even species that had never left their home system sent messages of support. Captain Tae-min Lee, now promoted to admiral, led the rescue fleet to Antares. What they found was a small group of raiders attacking defenseless farming colonies. The pirates had expected easy victims. Instead, they faced the combined might of the new Galactic Alliance. This is Admiral Tae-min Lee of the Human Space Navy, he broadcast to the pirate fleet. You are attacking members of the Galactic Alliance. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. The pirate leader, a creature called Sek Vorthak, laughed at the transmission. Humans, you are far from home. We have been raiding these systems for decades. What can you do to stop us? The answer came in the form of quantum phase weapons that disabled his entire fleet in minutes. But instead of destroying the pirates, Admiral Lee made them an offer that became the standard for dealing with such threats. Sek Vorthak, you have two choices. You can spend your life in prison, or you can spend your life working to repair the damage you have caused. Choose wisely. Dr. So-young Park, now head of the Cultural Preservation Institute, had established teams throughout the galaxy working to recover and restore lost civilizations. The archive recovered from Hegemony Prime had become the foundation for the largest cultural restoration project in galactic history. We, have identified over 300 extinct civilizations. She reported to President Ryu. Using genetic samples and cultural artifacts, we can restore their languages, art, and scientific knowledge. Some species that were thought completely extinct still have small populations hidden on remote worlds. The restoration project became a symbol of the new galactic order. Instead of erasing cultures, the Alliance worked to preserve and celebrate diversity. Former enemies cooperated to rebuild destroyed worlds and revive lost traditions. But the shadow of the Void Collective still hung over everything. Specialist Junho Bayek, now head of Galactic Intelligence, had been analyzing the data recovered from hegemony databases. What he found was deeply troubling. President Ryu, he reported during a classified briefing, the Void Collective is real, and they have been manipulating galactic politics for thousands of years. Every major war, every genocide, every collapse of civilization can be traced back to their influence. How powerful are they? President Ryu asked. Unknown. The hegemony records suggest they exist partially outside normal spacetime. They may be responsible for the disappearance of several ancient super-civilizations. General Haiwan Shin, now Supreme Commander of Alliance Defense Forces, studied the intelligence reports with growing concern. If this Void Collective is as powerful as the data suggests, we need to prepare the entire galaxy for a threat unlike anything we have faced. What do you recommend? President Ryu asked. We accelerate the alliance building. Every species that joins our mutual defense network makes us stronger. We also need to develop new technologies based on what we learned from the hegemony archives. The work of building the new galactic order continued at an amazing pace. On New Busan, where the story had begun 3 centuries ago, a massive monument was erected honoring the Vellani gift that had started humanity's journey to the stars. Dr. So-Young Park read the inscription at the dedication ceremony. To those who showed kindness to strangers and taught us that help given freely creates bonds stronger than any chain. We remember, we honor, we protect. Elder Kith stood beside her, his silver skin glowing softly in the afternoon light. Human friend, do you know what this monument really represents? Tell me, Dr. Park replied. It represents the moment when the galaxy learned that kindness is not weakness, that helping others makes you stronger, not weaker. Your species has taught us that the greatest power is not the ability to destroy, but the ability to protect. As the ceremony ended, urgent messages began arriving from distant sectors. The Karathi Republic was under attack by unknown vessels. The Selene Collective had gone silent. Deep space monitoring stations were detecting massive energy signatures moving through unexplored regions. Captain Sujin Kwan, now head of Alliance Intelligence, brought the news to the command center on Earth. The pattern matches what we know about Void Collective operations. They create chaos, then harvest something from the destruction. Harvest what? Commander Kim asked. He had been promoted to Supreme Alliance Coordinator, responsible for managing the defense of hundreds of worlds. Unknown, but every time they appear, entire civilizations vanish without a trace. President Ryu made the decision that would define humanity's role in the galaxy for generations to come. Send the call to all Alliance members. If the Void Collective wants to test our resolve, they will face not just humanity but every species that believes in freedom and cooperation. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Vellani ships carrying advanced terraforming weapons joined human dreadnoughts. Former hegemony species brought captured coalition technology. Even the most peaceful agricultural world sent supply ships and volunteers. Ambassador Jin A-No coordinated the largest military mobilization in galactic history. Over 10,000 ships from 50 different species gathered at the staging area near the galactic rim. 3 centuries ago, she announced to the assembled fleet commanders, the Vellani showed kindness to human strangers. Today we show the universe what happens when that kindness grows into something greater. Today, we defend not just our own species but the right of all species to exist in peace. Matriarch Yeleth, despite her advanced age, insisted on joining the fleet as a spiritual advisor. Her presence inspired crews throughout the Alliance, a living symbol of what they were fighting to protect. Human protectors, she said during the final briefing before departure. You have already changed the galaxy forever. You have shown us that the strong can choose to protect the weak instead of exploiting them. Whatever comes next, that lesson will survive. As the massive Alliance fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Elder Kiths shared one final piece of Vellani wisdom with Commander Kim. In our oldest prophecies there is a saying, "The seed of kindness once planted grows into a forest that shelters all who seek refuge. You humans were our seed of kindness. Now you have become the forest that protects the galaxy." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of hundreds of species. They were no longer fighting just for the Vellani, or even for humanity. They were fighting for the idea that cooperation was stronger than conquest, that diversity was more valuable than uniformity, and that kindness was the greatest power in the universe. Behind them, on thousands of worlds, former slaves worked side by side with their former masters to rebuild what had been destroyed. The Galactic Alliance had become more than a military partnership. It had become a new way of living that proved the galaxy could be a place where helping strangers made you strong instead of weak. The age of predators was truly over. The age of protectors had begun, and somewhere in the depths of space the Void Collective was about to learn that some debts, once repaid, create bonds that cannot be broken by any force in the universe. The story that began with a simple act of kindness on a distant colony world had become the foundation of a new galactic civilization. And this was only the beginning.